Hello, parents.
Hello, I'm in the north of England. My name is Meryl Batchelder, and I'm a regional facilitator for the Ministry of Eco Education.
My name's Paul. I'm a geography specialist based down on the South Coast. Welcome to this National Day of Climate and Nature CPD. Thanks so much for joining us. So, what we've got is about 10, 15 minutes of what we're hoping going to be really direct, simple training for you to be able to inspire you to take some next steps. What we also wanted to do was just mention that at the end of last academic year, we hosted a great teacher celebration event, which really highlighted the wealth of knowledge, experience, people in the climate and nature education space. And we just wanted to emphasize how rich a tapestry that is. And I know, Meryl, you're really well connected with lots of the people and organizations happening as well.
Okay, are we ready to go?
We are. Let's go. So we wanted to start with the why. And the first why is from a moral imperative. We're all human beings. We all live on planet Earth. We're all part of society. What's going on in terms of the climate and nature crisis, Mel?
Okay, so we have got some serious issues, and these issues are going to impact young people more even than they're impacting people of my age. So we have an image here, and it shows the two sets of stripes. The top set of stripes, the blue to the red, are called the warming stripes. And Ed Hawkins from Reading University created these as a visual way to really, show the impact of what's happening with our climate. The blue stripe on the far left is around about 1970. The red stripe on the far right is it's about 50 years later. So approximately over my lifespan, this. And you can see it's gone from blue to, slightly into pinks and now into deep reds. The planet has warmed about 1.5 degrees already. 2024 was the warmest year on record. 2025 summer looks like it's probably the hottest in the UK. You can see that, you can feel the change in our classrooms as they get hotter and hotter. So young people who are entering year one now, or early years now, are being born in this really deep red zone. And now it's just going to get warmer until we stop burning fossil fuels, until we change our agricultural practice. It's going to get hotter. So young people need to be prepared for how to manage that heat and understand how we can help, how we can be part of the change. The bottom set of stripes are called the biodiversity stripes, set up by Miles Richardson, again from about 1970 to the present day. When I was born, it was a lush green and pleasant land, shall we say. And over the years, farming impacts, climate, pesticide use has meant our biodiversity has declined. And it's seriously declined. The latest data is really quite shocking. So again, young people born today are seeing a much grayer planet than they would have done 50 years ago. And I think these stripes just help us visualize how serious it is and what that trend is like.
Yeah, and we've got some warming stripes that we take to schools, and we've seen really great ways of using these in the classroom. And I really like that illustration as well over the top of it. Helps to
I know,
to
it's like makes
communicate
it.
it to a younger audience, doesn't it? Yeah. So, just in terms of people, if they wanted to di dive deeper into this, we've got Meryl's made these with Docu B series, which explores things like the state of the climate report, state of nature report, and these are again quick snapshots to go even deeper into some of those numbers to understand what is happening to our planet now. The climate that you grew up in doesn't exist anymore.
And it's really, the science is really complicated. And so, the scientists have been talking about this for many years, but the science is complicated. And when you actually look at the data, so all I try and do is make it a little bit more simple to understand the big numbers, what they mean, and what we can do to take action in schools.
And then, as Meryl referenced as well, we increasingly are getting these headlines. The Met Office just recently said that the summer is likely to be the warmest on record. That's one of a handful of kind of headlines from the Met Office that have come out over the summer. We've experienced that, we've felt it. It might be that the conversations you have with people is, oh, how great the summer was, but it's completely out of the norm, or it is our new norm in the sense that it's getting warmer and warmer, and that's something that we're all living with and experiencing, and we do understand.
Indeed.
And
So,
then.
yeah, so people don't talk about it very much. And actually, when you do ask people, do you care? Do you want to take action? Internationally, the level is 80% of people want to take action, they want their governments to take action on climate to make the situation better. In the UK, it's over 86% of people. So whatever you see in the press that, oh, it's a no-no and the green transition isn't going to be affordable and all the rest of it, 86% in the UK want action on climate. So, I think we're part of education is vital to make sure, not only our students in our classrooms are aware of that everybody wants to take action, but also in our communities, in our wider school community, that
Mm.
we really, that, and this was taken from the People's Climate Vote 2024, the world's biggest climate survey. So, these are facts from the United Nations.
Yeah, and I think it's that sense of you might think that you're an outlier if you're taking action, but actually this is a really common attitude. There is the Climate Majority Project, which is also communicating this sense that actually we do all agree this is the common attitude, but it's because we don't talk about it. We're not open about these sorts of things
And it's driving decision making. So 69% say that climate is impacting big decisions in their lives, whether to not to have children. If you think that the planet is, not changing fast enough to keep up with, this human induced climate change, actually that is a huge decision. And even in my lifestyle, I'm not flying anymore, and I try and grow fruit and vegetables on my little, in my garden, to try and do my part, so all decisions in the long term will be climate induced decisions or
What we're
climate
saying
related.
is, if you as a teacher are not engaging with this, it's a big chunk of people's thinking and part of their lives. If you in your teaching are not engaging with this, that's a big part that you're missing out on. And so it's important to sort of weave this throughout. The next why might be, and we think of it as more of a secondary one, we think the moral is the bit at the beginning, and then it's, well, okay, what's expected of us professionally? And so increasingly there is more and more expected from the Department for Education. Meryl, there's three key initiatives, isn't there,
There's
that the
three key
government is
initiatives that
doing?
the Department of Education, so they have a climate and sustainability strategy. It is being reviewed, and we know the curriculum's also being reviewed, but the main three strands that can provide help. Climate ambassadors can come into your school. If you sign up with STEM Learning, there's the Climate Ambassador Hub, and local people from business or charities, from other educators can come into your school to help. There is the Sustainability Support Hub, which provides resources. I prefer ours, but hey, I'm biased. And then there are the
Education, Nature Park,
education,
led by
yes,
Natural
National
History
Education,
Museum and the RHS. Yeah,
National
those are the three.
Education Nature
And
Park.
then there are, other kind of periphery, other things in the
Yeah,
space
Let's
as
Go
well,
Zero is a huge
with
one,
particularly
helping.
climate action plans as an emphasis for people to have this pathway to net zero. But I think what we would say is that curriculum really is the core of what we think. It's the fundamental of what a school's doing. It's the day to day. It's the thing that every young person experiences whilst at the school. And so we really wanted to emphasize this sense that there is like a jigsaw. We've put together this diagram that helps kind of bring it to life. That it's all kind of interlinked, it's all complementary, and there's this wealth of organizations who are often providing free support. And it's the sort of thing that I know teachers struggle in terms of having the capacity, so many different priorities, but there really is no excuse not to accept this sort of support and help. There are people out there
Well,
with yeah.
the government's strategy says that all schools should have a sustainability lead by the end of 2025. So this term, effectively, if you haven't got one already, your school is expected to have one. And as the curriculum changes, as the DfE address some of these gaps in the curriculum, it's likely that role is going to be really quite important to help teachers across the school take sustainability and put it into the ethos of the school. That should be driven down by senior leadership as well.
Yeah, it's about having a kind of a whole school strategy approach and for it to be a shared responsibility as well, because I'm sure people watching this might be they think of themselves as the kind of one person in the school who's got that responsibility, but actually it's something that every teacher should be considering.
And even up to governors, local authorities. There's a bigger picture,
Yeah.
being drawn out, and the landscape is changing. But definitely changes is happening now.
And I think the other thing that this diagram illustrates is that sense that we think of sustainability in its broadest sense, that yes, carbon and climate action plans is part of that, but equally the curriculum. And then also to be truly sustainable, you need to engage with the local community. And you might be doing that, but not considering it as part of sustainability. It could be through a wildlife trust, school, visits. It could be inviting in the local community. But the other piece as well is that forest schools and outdoor learning. There's been this growth over the last few years in interest around forest schools, but also weaving that throughout the rest of the curriculum and understanding that it should be part of everything.
There's a huge network of people providing support into schools to try and, green your school, in terms of your school grounds, in terms of purchasing, in terms of the curriculum, loads and loads of support. And one of the things we do as the Ministry of Eco-Education is try and rationalise that and make it more simple.
Yeah, so what we've done as a group of teachers with kind of different interests and specialisms and age groups and all those sorts of things is share our experience and bring it together by finding all of the different free resources and opportunities from hundreds of organizations. And rather than just being a website that is a sort of database of those and sort of allows you to go and explore them yourself, we've tried to add value by weaving them together into series of what we call learning journeys framed by big questions. And we use 7 key themes to help try and give a bit of a structure to what can be a quite a vague statement around sustainability. What do we really mean by sustainability? So we've got these 7 key themes. And actually, Meryl, there's a bit of a hierarchy to them, isn't there?
There is. So the 7 themes are energy, food, nature, society, transport, waste, and water. Now, the ones that impact, the main areas of those that impact our climate the most severely are energy, where we get our energy from, our food, how we make our food and grow our food, and also transport, how we get around. Actually, if you look at your climate action plan for school, a lot of those impacts will be down to transport, how people are travelling around to get to school and also on school trips. And so if we tackle those three, that's great. But it's bigger than that. We know that, water, waste, nature and society have huge implications for not only our own well-being, but also our role in society, and our impact on society, our impact on our environment. So there is a little bit of a hierarchy, but they're all, those 7 themes. It's the thing that pulled me into the Ministry of Eco-Education right at the very start. Was one of the questions was, what does it take to make a cup of tea? And actually, it's hugely complicated when you start to break it down. A great question to ask young people, and one that's actually in the energy section because of transport and because of international trade and things, but it impacts on all of them.
So the Ministry of Eco-Education framework, informed by the Green Britain Group, by Dale Vince, lots of the businesses who are making a Green Britain right now. So that's kind of informing that structure and helping us to kind of create that. But the key thing then is there's a website with loads of learning journeys framed by big questions, so series of lessons. They're designed to be flexible, inspiration for you to be able to take a few activities, to take a whole question, a whole series of lessons. It's up to you, but it's there to get you thinking more and reflecting on your teaching.
Absolutely, and it's hugely flexible, so you can just dip in and out. You don't need to do a whole series. The series of big questions all have about 8 different lessons below them, but you can just pick and choose. And we link out to resources that are incredible. We haven't created all of the individual resources. We link out to the wildlife trusts or the RSPB or organisations who really know their field. And so we've built lessons, a whole program, as a scheme of work around some fantastic resources for you to use in your classrooms. We have 3 steps for you as a parent to try and encourage your local school community to be part of a transition to a cleaner future.
So step one is that there are loads of organisations with a real focus on bringing parents together to help create change in education. So the first and most obvious one is the Parents for Future, who've been doing some really exciting, dynamic campaigning events online, in person. Particular focus recently has been on Rosebank and stopping Rosebank. But there's a whole wealth of things. They've got a really good regional network, so it's worth reaching out, finding your local or kind of regional network. A lot of that's done by counties, but they're a great organisation to connect with.
Yep, Mums for Lungs, and there's other smaller organisations that might be working in your neighbourhood to try and help give clean air around schools because of either just local congestion or parents sitting and idling their cars. So there's, and if there isn't a one that you can find, then set up your own. Particulate pollution on young lungs is hugely, hugely damaging. So, if we can stop people idling, encourage, shared car schemes or walking to school, all sorts of ways we can get kids to be more active. There probably is something in your area. You could work with the senior leadership in school, or other parents, such as the PTA, to try and make your location better.
Yeah, so you could focus on a sort of single issue as a doorway into that broader sustainability. So it could be the way that people travel to school, but it could also another interesting one, Meryl, is food, isn't it? They're
Yeah,
thinking about
absolutely.
food provision, connecting the school with local farmers, thinking about actually the food that's provided for young people.
Yep. And get interested. What's going on in your school? What are they feeding them at lunchtime? Because sometimes not only is it not particularly healthy, I know there's certain legislation, but quite often there's a lot of meat going in there when actually plant-based options are available.
Yeah, and that feeds on really well then to the next step two, which is kind of holding the school to account. You as parents have the ability to do that. And you need to ask the questions. Why aren't you using Ministry of Education support? It's free, it's there. What does the curriculum look like? And so you could say to the school, have you created a map of sustainability? Here's the support to do it. So rather than just kind of picking holes and sort of saying, why aren't you doing this? What about also sharing that support with them and saying, look, here's something that you can use in a positive way.
There are so many solutions across the educational landscape now to get sustainability into schools, to get the schools to be more sustainable. Yeah, we can definitely help. Ministry of Eco-Education can help. There are other resources available to schools.
Yeah.
So it's about asking questions of teachers and of head teachers and even of governors if you think there's an issue that needs to be addressed. It might be that your school is already fantastic, and then how do we improve it?
Yeah.
And that leads us on to step 3.
Yeah, I guess, sorry, I was thinking about another one in step two still. We've got things like climate action plans as well as this kind of mapping it across the curriculum. So there's definitely documents that you can be asking for. It could even be things like travel plans, but holding the school to account, asking for the evidence and seeing where it sits and yeah, mapping and climate action plans. Step three. We are part of communities. Schools are the hub of the community, and there's so much potential there, isn't there, for learning experiences to cross over. And it could be that you, as parents, have got expertise in areas, and you could offer that up to the school and to come in and run workshops or to help host events. What else, Meryl? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about of opening the eyes of schools are incredibly busy places, and quite often just having that extra pair of eyes open to say, okay, we are in a nature and climate crisis. What can we do to help? How can our school become a bigger part of that community? Who do you know? You could involve local businesses or charities or other schools. Try and make links and partnerships and build networks that can help. But parents, especially at primary level, but even, and what's really sad in a way is at secondary level, parents seem to be very hands off. But actually, schools do need help. They're under funding crises. So anything our local community, the wider group of parents can do to help, especially on the sustainability mission, is huge. It can have massive impacts. So offer to go in if you know something about sustainability already. Offer to go in if you know someone who does. Just say,
Mm.
how about it? Because there's a whole network of people like climate ambassadors that can go in, but schools, one, might not be that aware of them, and two, might not have the time to facilitate that sort of extra enrichment for learning.
So it's almost acting as a sort of someone to help connect these things up. I mean,
Conduit.
funding is the other one as well. Is that maybe that you can spend a bit of time finding, and we've got a good list actually of funding opportunities for schools, and you can help them to complete applications. We've got some good stories of where that's happened, where parents have stepped in and helped. Yeah, where maybe the school doesn't have the capacity and resource to be able to complete forms, and parents might do.
If that's helping get solar on the school building, that would take a huge weight off the senior leadership's head. It's a big role, but the funding that could, the amount schools spend on energy is huge. If we get solar on schools, then actually that can relieve some of the money to be used for better education rather than just keeping the building, warm, or light or whatever.
Yeah. And I guess we're always looking for more people to join our activator network. You mentioned climate ambassadors. We've also got a network of activators. It might be that parents, come join us or join one of the other parent kind of focused charities and organizations. But there's definitely like-minded voices, like say, and people to come together. And it's all about that mutual support. So, well,
And
thank you.
there's some really exciting things going on. So, yeah, become part of it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, parents. Bye.